The air was thick here down in the dark. Of all the acquaintances Alastor had, this one was the one he disliked the most, and yet was also the most useful. Strutting confidently, he descended black stairs into a deep, dark dungeon. The place was long and dark. The delicious smell of blood entered his nostrils as he kept walking. From somewhere the noise of screams came, and Alastor stopped walking, curious looking to his right. Of course there were clients here. He didn't announce his visit after all, but he had hoped it would be quiet today. The establishment Alastor had found himself in was an underground network connected with a couple of seemingly unrelated businesses. An exclusive club primarily used by the overlords to dispose of undesirable demons, hellborn or sinner alike. A satisfying feeling of nostalgia overcame Alastor as his hands slid across the walls. He stopped for a moment next to one of them, and he snickered. A number plate read AL1987. He wondered. Crooking a finger, he knocked 3 times against the concrete. His lips twitched up into an evil grin as the noise of hands slamming behind it could be heard. Alastor couldn't help but laugh. The person trapped behind the wall, upon hearing Alastor's voice, started screaming. It was barely audible, could only be heard after he placed his ear on the wall.
Come on, old chap, you'd think after 10 years you'd be used to this by now and have forgiven me. Or not.
This beautiful place of everlasting torment was something the demon he wished to converse with owned. With how demons functioned, specifically sinner demons, they didn't experience aging. They couldn't die, unless hit by an angelic weapon. They could merely reform at some other place. The memories of their mistakes still intact. If lucky, in a new physical form as well. Yet sometimes that wasn't enough for overlords or high-paying customers. And so, in secret, this place had been erected. Behind these walls were countless souls trapped forever, unable to leave, unable to starve, unable to die. Breathing the same air for countless decades. He wondered how many of these had already turned to screaming, mouth-foaming feral zombies. And yet, Alastor kept heartlessly walking. Now with a little more pep in his step from the little amusement. Of course, he didn't remember who specifically he walled in there. He just knew that the number plates with the letters AL were all his. This was so that a wall wasn't opened by accident. When more captives were added to the ever-increasing length of underground tunnels. From around the corner, Alastor heard humming, followed by the sound of a chainsaw's loud scream. And a violent, cackling laughter. Aside from being a storage facility for demons who wronged overlords, it also was a place where sinners and hellborn could let loose on someone specifically, for the right price. Did a lover betray you? Was your boss an asshole but too powerful for you to take them on alone? Do you want to put immeasurable pain upon someone you hated and keep captive until the next purge? Then why not pay a small fee and have them be brought into the dungeons? So you can do with them whatever you wanted. A basement deal with one of the exorcists guaranteed that the establishment would not be destroyed during a purge. And that during one, an angel would enter the facility and kill anything alive. That wasn't walled in, of course. Usually, any customer was warned 48 hours in advance to not be in the facility before the next purge occurred. The area where the service was practiced was usually called the garden section. Curiously, Alastor poked his head around the corner into said section. He peeked into a small torture chamber door where the screams were coming from. It was open. From experience, the radiodemon knew that this was only practiced if only one demon had booked a room in the garden for the day. Probably paying a lot just to do this. Inside, he saw a stained glass demon wielding a circular saw, covered in blood, while in the corner, wearing a mask, was someone smoking a cigarette. Clearly the guy who paid for this. A dismembered demon was lying on the floor, crying loudly. Whenever their body tried to reassemble itself, the stained glass demon immediately went back to sawing. Someone must have really upset the masked one. How Alastor wished to enter and sample some of the blood, but it would be rude to interrupt such a wonderful show. And so he turned around, continuing on his path. As much as Alastor despised you, you still were somewhat entertaining to him. As he said, whenever you were present, you were always good company to have around. Your name, at least the one you had chosen, was Nero, and you were a deal maker. On a power scale, you were around the level of a lower overlord, and thanks to your deals with the upper cluster of demons, most certainly were an honorary overlord. Just the simple fact that you preferred to stay the #1 demon rather than the least impressive overlord was what kept you here. You were a simply adorable little thing. You just barely managed to reach up to his navel in size. Since your body was a bit on the shorter end, you managed to make it look classy by always dressing in just the most beautiful dresses, usually white. You had long pastel pink hair with white highlights, black lipstick usually covering your lips. Your eyes were big, white glowing orbs, giving you a 1,000-yard stare that was borderline hypnotic. It made you pretty good at poker as well. You were a prideful demon, only brought down by your size. And you were the one who controlled a large army of stained glass demons. A special breed of imps that quite literally were made out of glass. Tall, imposing, and yet shattering easily, with enough force. It appeared as if over the past 7 years you had replaced your entire workforce with them, probably to reduce cost. With a pleased hum, Alastor stopped in the hallway that led to your office, when a glass demon rushed past him. With a loud crash, he broke through your door.
The radio demon is coming.
Alastor blinked surprised. He just barely saw the feather adorning your hat move, and your distorted image through the demon's body. Oh, thank you for telling me, sweetheart. Next time, tell me before he is right there! Sighing, you let the demon go. It bowed before Alastor and then rushed off. Meanwhile, you had gotten off your chair and were running towards the radio demon with a wide smile and a little blush on your cheeks. Alastor, it's been a while, you shouted, before trying to jump into his arms. He took a quick step to the side. Your obsession with him was the real reason he despised being around you. causing you to slam on the ground. Ugh! You complained as you stood up.
That's so typical of you, darling. I can read you like a book.
You puffed up your cheeks. And you didn't tell me you'd be coming. I would have prepared cake. Some tea. Alastor must be one of the few demons you respected yourself. Or more, loved was a better word. He also was the first man to actually listen to your idea of opening the dungeons. Though it was only years later you learned that two similar establishments had been created in other places, so you added the garden section, and ever since your business had been booming. Thinking, you walked past him towards your office. I would have probably gotten some steak. I know how much you love your meat. You had a severe disdain towards cannibalism, and always referred to it as simply his meat, his taste. Normally that was a deal breaker for you, but, well, Alastor was just such a charmer, you could overlook the little cannibalism thing. Come, I'll just have someone make tea for us. The radio demon chuckled as he followed you into your office. With a snap of your fingers, a beautiful, soft chair appeared before your desk. Sit down. We have so much to catch up on. 7 years, was it, right? How time flies. Alastor raised an eyebrow looking at the chair. Huh. You couldn't do that before. So you did learn a few new tricks. He certainly could use that. Smiling, he sat down. And that's when he noticed to his disdain that the thing was way too soft. It was difficult not to sink into the cushion. You leaned on your desk with a bright smile, knowing how much he loved your smile. So, what have you been doing? Done any great deals? Knowing you, they were probably He interrupted you by clapping his hands.
Darling, I'm not here to talk about the previous years. I'm here because I have a business opportunity for you.
Oh. You took a more professional pose. Yes, business. Let's pretend like the last 7 years didn't happen. Your body twitched, and your eyes narrowed in a serious manner. But just as the radio demon opened his mouth again, you broke out into tears. I missed you, Alastor!
Okay, darling. We can catch up later.
You sniffled. Promise?
It's nice to see that you're still as immature as ever. I practically feel 7 years younger.
Your lips twitched as you smiled.
I am considering to invest into a small business at the outskirts of town. Simple and adorable. A little hotel. You have probably seen it.
You nodded. I'm guessing it's the redemption place? Seemed kinda bullshit to me. He grinned.
Glad we're on the same wavelength, my darling.
That earned you a pat on the head. So, you're investing into this hotel with all those has-beens from yesteryear? For what? Redemption? You? Oh, that, I don't see that.
No, darling. I just like to see their hopes and dreams crushed from their eyes when heaven rejects them. Plus, it's going to be very entertaining regardless.
You smirked. I see. So, just an opportunity for you to laugh a little. And what do you need from me? I'm not going out to be redeemed. I have fun here. I don't need some perfect paradise. After all, I already have it. You tilted your head. The screams, the blood, the talking walls. With your hand, you made a motion of squeezing a cube. The tight spaces! The grime. Oh, the grime. Yeah, darling, I noticed the grime. A sight all appearances, deep down, you weren't just an adorable little thing. In reality, you were a sewer demon. A filthy, little, wretched goblin thing. If it wasn't for your lust for Alastor and your desire for power, you'd be like all the other trash-feeding monsters in the canals, rolling around in the mud and dirt, eating scraps, too lazy to actually get anything done, too hungry to leave the feast of rotten food, too depressed to feel like you got any power at all. In a way, you were what high demon society feared. A monster, dressed up in fine clothes, able to pretend you were more than you actually were. And it was Alastor, the only person you showed this side of you. And that's why you always were such a delight to talk to. And why he just barely gave you enough sensuality, never actually giving in to your desires, of course, but enough to make you want more.
Darling, I need you as an instigator.
You weren't the only one, of course. Alastor had his grimy fingers and eyes everywhere. Instigator?
Just be on call if I need you, and do whatever I say.
So vague. And you know I love doing what you tell me to. You amused. When you have control over me, it gets me all, woozy. You blinked at him lovingly.
Of course, my dear, of course. I promise I won't interfere with your business. God knows how much I enjoy what you're doing here.
So you were his plan B. That's at least what it sounded like. Oh well, better than being plan C. You forced yourself to smile. And what do I get in return?
A kiss?
Your eyes widened. Nah, I want more. But your blush and grin betrayed your words, and Alastor knew that.
Fine then.
He rolled his eyes, leaned forward, and whispered into your ear.
But then, I'd like your utmost submission when I ask you for a favor.
Goosebumps spread around your neck. Alice's face hovered over yours as he grinned. What are you going to do? You hummed. Without warning, Alastor kissed you. Deeply. Your toes curled up at the sensation. You were love-struck enough to not realize the lack of passion behind it. He just wanted to get you where he wanted you to be. Either way, though, you enjoyed it. Your tongue prodding at his lips for a few seconds, leading to the demon to roll his eyes again, in utter annoyance, and reluctantly he allowed you passage. A vile taste only a being of utmost depravity such as yourself enjoyed. His tongue, a black slab of a muscle, was slimy, his salvia tasting like his last meal, was raw and powerful, completely dominating your own dainty organ. But that's just how you liked it. Though just as you got used to his taste, he retreated, leaving you wanting more. No, you complained, but he put a finger on your mouth. With his other hand, he summoned an hourglass.
I shall do whatever disgusting little body fluid exchange you wish me to do, until the last grain falls. And then our deal is a deal.
He slammed the thing on your desk. The sand was leaving quickly. Maybe you had 6 minutes, give or take.
Then what are we waiting for, Alastor? My love, throw those clothes away this instant!
Special thanks to my darling channel members, Aruna, Chloe Rockenbow, Chariot Bunny, D's Nuts, Nicodemus D, Cat Cove, Kaya Abyss, BitBit, Zinx, Sleeptown, Hella, Nexrist, AJ Anime Girl, and Hopeful. And special thanks for the rejoining members Melofia and Muffin. Welcome back. I missed you.